Zwom. Doot, 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 doot. BMO.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to BMO Creative Crypto videos. So, this one is about the Black Knight satellite, and this is going to be a little bit longer than my usual fact about fiction or crypto videos because there's a lot to this one. So, I did a lot of research on the request of a fan in my videos, and the facts surrounding the Black Knight satellite are cobbled together from a number of tales. I drew this off the top of my head, not trying to draw the Black Knight satellite because I don't look at anything when I'm drawing it, but this is just to represent like a piece of space debris that could actually be a piece of working machinery that somebody put out there in space, kind of like what people are saying the Black Knight satellite is. So anyway, take a look at this photo. NASA captured this image of a mysterious black object orbiting the Earth in 1998 during the first space shuttle mission STS-88 to the International Space Station while 246 miles above the coast of Namibia, and they were facing north when they did this. The space agency referred to the item, because they catalog everything, as STS-088-724-66 in its catalog of space junk floating in low Earth orbit, which they classify as within 1,200 miles of the Earth. So, you can see that it's a three-dimensional object when it rotates around, it spins around, and it's got lights on it. So, there you go. Jerry Ross, an astronaut who was on that mission, said that the object was a thermal blanket that broke loose while they tried to attach an American module to a Russian module on the space station. Here's a quote from Robert Cabana. Jerry, one of the thermal covers got away from you. STS-88 Commander Robert Cabana, who is now, I believe, an associate administrator of NASA, told Ross during the spacewalk, and it soon became apparent that the cover was lost for good. I mean, they couldn't reach it. Subsequently captured on camera, this runaway object was given the catalog number 025570 by NASA. So then, what about the number that they identified, STS-088-624-66? Well, yeah, they're two different objects, I think. They say a few days later that that space blanket, that thermal blanket, fell back into orbit and burned up. And that's the information that is on record that I could find to this day. However, this is what a space blanket looks like. Yeah, they're either gold or silver, shiny, kind of look like they're made of aluminum, and they're not three-dimensional objects with lights on them. So, there you go. Of course, based on this info, some people think that this is not good enough explanation. It's not a space blanket. Also, this object has been reported for decades prior to NASA's 1998 photo. Nikola Tesla said he received radio signals from space in 1899 during radio experiments in Colorado Springs. He said Martians were attempting to communicate with humans through numbers since they're a universal language. That's what he said. In February of 1901, Collier's Weekly article, Tesla recounted his experience. This is a quote from what he wrote, what he said there. The changes I noted were taking place periodically and with such a clear suggestion of number and order that they were not traceable to any cause then known to me. The feeling is constantly growing on me that I had been the first to hear the greeting of one planet to another. That's what he said. Black Knight truthers say this is the first sign of the satellite sending radio pulses. Scientists say those pulses were naturally occurring signals that space objects emit while in orbit. Okay, or possibly a pulsar from a faraway celestial body that emits regular pulses of radio waves. No proof has been given to either one of these. So, let's move on to 1927. Civil engineer and ham radio operator Jorgen Hals stumbled upon an unusual quality to his radio signals. As he transmitted from his home in Oslo, the signals unexpectedly returned to him moments later. Halls perceived this was an alien phenomenon. Now, where he jumped to that conclusion, I don't know, but that's what he said. In 1954, Marine Corps naval aviator, writer, and UFO researcher named Donald Kehoe said that the U.S. Air Force had detected 2 satellites orbiting Earth. Now, 1954, that's 3 years prior to the first human-made satellite officially on record, Sputnik 1, being launched. In 1960, Time reported a satellite was engaged in a polar orbit of Earth, because people were seeing it. All known US and Russian satellites were, however, engaged in equatorial orbit instead. The US Department of Defense responded to the article and claimed that what Time reported was not a satellite on its own, but a piece that broke off of the Discoverer satellite. No proof was ever offered to this. At the time of the sighting, the technology to put a satellite into polar orbit was not yet even known, either by the US or anyone else, according to official record. In 1963, Project Mercury astronaut Gordon Cooper, very famous guy, reported seeing a UFO ejecting an object during his 15th orbit while aboard the Faith 7 spacecraft, according to the UK's Armagh Observatory and Planetarium. And a NASA station in Australia, around 100 people also saw the UFO Cooper reported. After his mission, however, Cooper was ordered to and did produce transcripts stating that he never saw an alien spacecraft during that particular mission. This report is not listed in any official NASA documents I could find. 1951, Cooper was a fighter pilot prior to being an astronaut, and he said that the object that he saw in 63 looked like spacecraft he saw back in 51 when he was a fighter pilot. Interesting. Author Duncan Lunan said that a 13,000-year-old object could have led to the long-delayed echoes that the guy heard in 1927, Jorgen Halls. Lunan also is really good at math, I guess, because he calculated it based on the 13,000 figure having to do with the positioning of the North Pole star Polaris. Lunan said in 1998 the translated message was a star map as well as instructions, and this is what the instructions said. Start here. Our home is Upsilon Boots, which is a double star. We live on the 6th planet of 7 coming from the Sun, which is the larger of the two. Our 6th planet has 1 moon. Our 4th planet has 3. Our 1st and 3rd planets each have 1. Our probe is in the position of Arcturus known in our maps. This is a map he drew. However, now scientists recognize those signals as long-delayed echoes, they say, that you can hear for about 2.7 seconds or more after a radio transmission. And Lunan, all of a sudden, has since distanced himself from the Black Knight theory altogether after having that letter that he wrote that he says he translated and drawing out a map based on the coordinates he was given. But I did some research, and Upsilon Boots is a real star in the constellation called Boots. So science did take his info as fact, even though he would have had no way of knowing this unless he did translate something. So, yeah, that's a very interesting story that could probably be its own video. Right now, more than 100,000 satellites are orbiting the Earth. A satellite is any object placed intentionally into orbit in outer space. The moon is technically a satellite, so sometimes the phrase is used artificial as compared to natural satellite. Which the moon is, I don't know. It's interesting to me that NASA and other space organizations keep a catalog of all this space debris, but they don't have any plans on cleaning any of it up, no matter how dangerous they claim it to be. They have catalog numbers for all of these objects, but they also claim that they don't know what all of the objects are. As for the photo of the Black Knight, NASA says that because the image shows a large cross-section of the thermal blanket in orbit, it looks to be, to the human eye, a large solid object. It is a large solid object. There's the literal video of it rotating around, and you can see it, and you can see lights on it. Okay, the image is nothing more than an optical illusion, is what they say. They also say you have to use fuel and have rocket engines to stay in orbit, even though they keep a catalog of debris, space debris, that has been out there for a very long time with no propulsion system. Supposedly it's just space trash. So counter to what they're saying here, I don't know. So that's obviously not true. Satellites don't have to have rockets on them to stay out in orbit and constantly using rocket fuel. Satellites are able to orbit around the planet because they are locked into speeds that are fast enough to defeat the downward pull of gravity. Satellites are sent into space by a rocket launched from the ground with enough energy, at least 25,000 miles an hour, to get outside our atmosphere. Once the rocket reaches its determined location, it drops the satellite into its orbit. The initial speed of the satellite is maintained as it detaches from the launch vehicle, and it's enough to keep the satellite in orbit for hundreds of years, according to NASA's own website. A satellite maintains its orbit by balancing two factors: its velocity, speed it takes to travel in a straight line, because the satellite's actually traveling in a straight line, but because of the Earth's gravity, it pulls it into a curve. So it looks like a curve to us, but it's actually trying to go in a straight line. And the gravitational pull of the Earth that's on it, okay? A satellite orbiting closer to the Earth requires more velocity to resist a stronger gravitational pull. Satellites do carry their own fuel supply, but not how cars use gas. It's not needed to maintain speed or orbit. It is reserved for changing orbit or avoiding collisions with debris, according to NASA's own website. Also on the website, they brag about the fact that satellites can sustain operations in orbit for a long time. NOAA's GOES 3 satellite, for example, had an operational life spanning 5 decades and 6 different presidents. These are all illustrations. I couldn't find not even one photo of the satellite, but this is what they say it looks like. These are all illustrations of it. Oh, and NASA satellites don't look like this. They actually look more like this. So in Hollywood movies and stuff, they make them look like the one in the top left corner, but in reality, they are very high tech, like the ones here on the left and, bottom left and right side here. And they are black now, interestingly enough. So I have a theory. Just throw one out there. My theory is that the origin of the Black Knight satellite isn't alien, but actually of Earth creation. The idea here is that an ancient race, where maybe they were scientifically advanced and launched a satellite before becoming extinct, like the Pakal stone there. Oh, and also, Mail Online published a story in March of 2017 that stated that an alien set up more than 12,000 year ago satellite to spy on humans was shot down by the elite Illuminati soldiers. I thought that was interesting enough to put in this video. That is still online. You can find that whole article. It's still online. They say it was shot down in 2017. Here's here's photos that were taken in 2015 by a woman in Jacksonville, Florida, of a Black Knight satellite that is not in orbit, but down in the sky. And it had 3 objects floating around it, and then all of a sudden those 3 little black objects there to the left of the Black Knight satellite all disappeared. They all disappeared at the same time. And then the one on the right, the picture on the right there that says watch video, that's a 3-dimensional rotating object in a video from the space station taken in 2018. So is there more than one Black Knight satellite? I don't know. So what do you guys think the Black Knight satellite is? I mean, what do you think it is? I don't know. Who knows? But I know it's not a space blanket, all right? Anyway, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Please go ahead and subscribe. Give a thumbs up for more BMO crypto videos. Thanks again. We'll see you in the next one.